God has something to say about your goals? And before we dive into how to set goals that are within God's will, let's look at the big picture first and ask the question, what is God's will? Setting goals while remaining in God's will requires a purposeful and prayerful approach. As Christ followers, we should routinely spend time with God in prayer and Bible study, seeking His will and direction with the assurance that He will respond when we sincerely seek guidance. Let God's will become your will, and as you turn to His word in prayer with faithfulness, your direction will become clearer, enabling you to take action with meaningful goals. Start the process by writing down each potential goal and stating why it's important. Pray about what you have written to sense if it's within God's will or is for your selfish gain. The why will serve as your motivation and help you stay focused when challenges arise. Be a prayerful goal setter and be open to how God might work through your plans. Simply writing down your goals can provide inspiration and accountability to attempt great things for God. Okay, now that we have the big picture, let's get into the details by starting with a description of 3 types of will when it comes to God. Theologians often divide God's will into 3 categories. Understanding how they apply to your goal setting relieves a lot of pressure. The first is God's sovereign will. This is what God has decreed will happen, which is often hidden from us. It simply means that everything that happens is either caused or allowed by God for a reason that serves His purpose for our lives. He is in total control of everything and knows it will happen in advance. We are not in control of His sovereign will, even though we often try to be. Next is God's moral will. This is the clearly revealed scripture found in the Bible, God's instruction on how to live, such as do not steal, love your neighbor, and be honest. If your goal violates scripture, it isn't in God's moral will. The last one is God's individual will. This applies to personal choices such as, should I start a business or go back to school? These are decisions made through prayer and Bible study. By drawing close to God in prayer and Bible study, we get a sense of what He wants for our lives. Those who believe God has an exact will for their lives seek His direction in prayer to find that one thing. A side note here, some theologians teach that it all stops with God's moral will. In other words, as long as we are thinking and behaving within the moral principles laid out for us in the Bible, we have a great deal of freedom in what we do with our lives. In this sense, God doesn't specifically direct you to go to a particular school or not, but you still go to God in prayer, and you will feel confident or not in your decision based on that prayer, which will guide you. It's a very subtle difference between living at the level of moral will or at the level of individual will. If your goal aligns with God's moral will, the scripture, you have the freedom to choose based on wisdom and desire. Augustine famously summarized this as, love God and do as you please. For those who believe God calls you to seek His individual will for your life, such as a specific job or person to marry, they follow the principle of individual will to arrive at their decision, as someone would at the level of moral will, through prayer. Whether you believe God allows you many choices in your career or just one, you will always arrive at your decision through prayer and Bible study. The Bible and prayer are the primary ways God speaks to us. Before setting a goal, run it through the grid of scripture and prayer. To use the Bible as your decision screening tool, ask yourself, does this goal contradict the Bible? A goal to get rich by exploiting others would contradict the Bible. Another way to ask the question is, does this goal align with biblical priorities? Does it promote justice, mercy, love, stewardship of your talents, or care for your family? If the answer is yes, you are within God's will. Psalm 119, verse 105 says, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." The Bible is an owner's manual for how we should live and make choices aligned with God's will for our lives. But biblical decision-making is rarely done in isolation. We can utilize friends and mentors from our church to help us see our blind spots. People in our church community can pray with us and for us, asking God to give us direction. We can seek their wise counsel and ask them, does this goal seem consistent with how you see God gifting me with talent and opportunity? God equips us for what He calls us to do and creates the opportunities for us to use those talents. Having someone with a deep relationship with God help you evaluate your talents and opportunities can help you avoid bias or misperceptions about your own life. Proverbs 15, verse 22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." Here's a word of caution. One misperception we often have is that God's will must always be something we hate doing. We sometimes see God as an angry overseer looking to punish us. But God is more loving than you have the capacity to know at this present time. He wants you to find joy and hope in your life by accepting Him as a loving God. If we want to be an artist and God has given us the talent and opportunity to do so, He won't call us to be an accountant. When you walk closely with God, He shapes your actual desires and builds your talent before unveiling the opportunity He has for you. When you prioritize your relationship with God, your heart will begin to align with His, and the desires built on that relationship are trustworthy. It's important to understand that it isn't sinful to have ambition. It's only sinful if the motive is pride or self-glorification, rather than the stewardship of your life for the glory of God. Psalm 37, verse 4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." God doesn't want you to be in a meaningless job that you hate. He wants to bless you so you become what the Bible calls an image bearer of God. Your work should glorify God. Strive to be sensitive and observant of how God is working in your life as you make the decisions you must make. Pay attention to your current circumstances. God often guides through providence, the orchestrating of events in your life. Look for the opportunity that God is presenting. Ask yourself, are the resources available? Is there an open door? Pay attention to what you're doing with what God has already given you. Are you being faithful with what you have right now? Jesus taught that those trusted with little will be trusted with much. Sometimes the will of God is simply to be faithful in what He has given you at this moment in time. Perhaps there is something you must learn or experience before He reveals your next opportunity. Proverbs 16, verse 9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." So here are 4 steps to guide you as you seek God's will for your life. Step 1, the audit. Look at your goals. Cross out any that clearly violate Scripture or where your motives are questionable. Step 2, the motive check. Ask yourself why you want these goals. Is it for status, security, or to serve and steward your gifts in a way that glorifies God? Write down your motive for each goal. Step 3, the submission. Hold your plans loosely. You make the plan, but you give God the right to interrupt it. Let your goal sit for a while as you pray that God will confirm or deny it. Step 4, the action. Don't wait for a bolt of lightning or a miracle from God. If the goal is moral, wise, and affirmed by prayer and counsel, move forward. God often steers a moving ship more easily than a stationary one. God's primary will for your life is to glorify Him through your actions seen by others. Your life should draw those around you to seek and worship God. You are an image bearer or ambassador for God. What you actually do is less important than how you do it. Think and act in a way that the nature of God is revealed in your life. Thanks for listening, and may God bless you as you determine what's next for your goals. If you'd like to know more about what it means to be a Christ follower, head over to our website at motivitymedia.com/why.
This has been a copyrighted broadcast of Motivity Media. For more resources linking biblical principles to leadership, go to motivitymedia.com.